She was the lioness general of a shattered world. He was the human diplomat sent to tame it. Neither expected their scars to match or their hearts to betray them. In the ashes of a war that nearly destroyed two species, a soldier and a statesman would ignite something far more dangerous than hatred, hope. This is not a love story born from peace. This is a love story forged in fire, and it all began with a pair of unblinking golden eyes and a hand that refused to draw its weapon. The Leonari capital was once a crown of glass and gold. Now it sat like a skull, picked clean by crows. Ash floated through the wind like falling snow. Smoke coiled from the shattered husks of temples. Flags, once proud, red and embroidered with the sun lion crest, hung tattered on broken towers. Silence ruled where once chants of warriors echoed. Commander Akala stood at the apex of the ruined citadel. Her armor bore scorch marks. Her fur, golden, striped like a lioness, was matted with ash and old blood. The ceremonial blade, strapped across her back, was chipped, but her amber eyes were still sharp enough to cut steel. She didn't speak, not to the wind, not to the ghost of her mate who had died screaming in the final assault. Only the scent of fire and the cold weight of memory filled her lungs. And then her second in command approached. "A human envoy has arrived," he said. She did not turn, she did not blink, but her claws slid silently from her fingertips. The war was over, but she wasn't finished fighting. He stepped onto Leonari soil like a man entering a cathedral, cautious but unafraid. Marcus Hale wore no armor, only a navy blue diplomatic coat and the scars of someone who had seen war without ever drawing a blade. His eyes, blue like Earth's oceans, were sharp, intelligent, but not cold. The guards at the gate snarled. He simply bowed. "I come in peace, and with something better than apologies." "What could be better than blood, human?" growled a guard. "A future without more of it," Marcus replied. Rakala waited for him on the palace steps. She was taller than him, broader in the shoulders, every inch a queen without a crown. He looked up and smiled. "Commander Rakala, I presume your presumption may be your last," she hissed. Their first meeting nearly ended in blades. She lunged. He stood his ground. She tested him, not just with words, but with silence and unspoken grief, and he saw past the teeth and fury. He saw the woman beneath the war paint. He offered a hand. She refused it, but for a heartbeat, she hesitated, and sometimes a pause is louder than a scream. They were assigned to co-lead the peace talks. The council chamber was split down the middle, half Leonari warriors, half human dignitaries. Arkala sat like a storm held in place by a thread. Marcus, like a breeze trying to move a mountain. The days were long, the nights were longer, and then the first attack came. A bombing in the council corridor, placed by extremists from both sides. Marcus tackled Arkala just before the blast hit. Shrapnel tore through the wall. Dust buried them. When she came to, he was bleeding, cradling her beneath his coat. "You all right, Commander? You shielded me. Diplomacy has its risks," she hissed, but not in anger, in confusion. Why would a human bleed for her? That night, as he stitched a gash across her ribcage, their hands touched. She bared her fangs, but didn't pull away. "My mate died in this palace," she whispered. "My brother died fighting outside its gates," he said. Their eyes locked, two ghosts staring at each other from opposite sides of the same grave. They fled into the mountains, for safety, or maybe for clarity. The assassin's second attempt failed, but barely. The leadership agreed. They were safer, far from the capital, if only for a few days. They lit a fire. They drank earth wine from a metal flask. She didn't trust the taste, but drank anyway. He told stories of Earth cities, of oceans and skies untouched by war. She told stories of her cubhood, of pride songs and battles fought not with claws, but with dances. And then he asked, "Do you remember who gave the order to attack the outpost at Sector 9? Her body went still. The flames crackled. Yes, my brother was there. Silence. The stars watched. I gave the order," she said. His breath caught. Her voice broke. "I didn't know. I couldn't know what that order would cost me later." The fire flickered, and the cliff between them widened. He didn't speak, not as they packed their gear, not as they descended the mountain path, not even when they were surrounded by a strike team from the capital, come to escort them home. Marcus Hale was silent, and silence was more painful than any insult. Rokala didn't apologize. Couldn't. Her people didn't offer words where actions failed. But as he walked 3 paces ahead, every step away from her carved something out of her chest. Back in the capital, the air was colder. The peace talks resumed, but the peacekeepers were at war with each other. She sat at one end of the table. He sat at the other. Their eyes never met. 3 days passed. Then came the riot. A Leonari war widow, radicalized by grief, stormed the forum with a pulse blade. Chaos erupted. Protesters clashed. The palace shook with anger. Marcus was caught in the middle. Rokala saw the blade before he did. She moved faster than thought. Steel rang against steel. His blood hadn't hit the ground, but hers had. "You saved me," he whispered, stunned. "Don't read into it," she growled through pain. But her hand clenched his sleeve. Later in the healing bay, as he sat beside her cot, her voice was barely above a breath. "I lost my mate because I sent him into fire alone. I will not lose someone again, not you." He didn't answer, but he didn't let go of her hand either. Peace was never born in silence. It screamed, it clawed, it bled, and now it teetered on the edge of annihilation. Extremists bombed the supply routes. Human militias threatened to abandon the treaty. Leonari clans demanded revenge, not compromise. The Chamber of Peace talks cracked under weight. It wasn't built to carry, and still they sat at opposite ends until Marcus stood. He looked around the room, not at Arkala, not at the warlords, but at the soldiers' widows, at the orphans, at the aides with fresh burned scars. "This isn't about forgiveness," he said. "It's about choosing not to lose anyone else. My brother died because someone followed an order, but if I let that grief decide the future, he dies again, every day." The hall fell silent. Then Arkala rose. "I am the one who gave that order," she said, her voice carrying like thunder, "and I have lived with that weight every day since. But I have learned that guilt is not the same as hate and love." Her voice cracked. "Love doesn't obey species, or borders, or wounds." She turned, looked directly at Marcus. "You once offered your hand. I offer mine now." He crossed the room and took it. Together, they signed the Treaty of Solari. But just when peace had finally bloomed, a messenger entered the chamber. "Ambassador Hale, you are ordered to return to Earth. Your reassignment is effective immediately." Her eyes widened. His jaw tensed. Victory, it seemed, would demand one more loss. Their final night was spent in silence and in each other's arms. There were no words that could soften the edges of goodbye. Only touches, only memories, only the breathless kind of intimacy shared by those who had no tomorrow to offer. She traced the scars on his chest. He memorized the curve of her jaw, the warmth of her fur, the thunder in her heart. "You smell like fire and jasmine," he whispered. You smell like earth, she replied, her voice breaking. Morning came too soon. The shuttle stood waiting, a silver blade against the dawn. He stepped inside. She stood at the launch pad, unmoving, unblinking, until the ship vanished into the clouds. She did not cry. Leonari, do not weep. But the wind carried something like grief. Weeks passed. The treaty held. Peace, fragile, fluttering, took root. And then, a message. Private, coded, from Earth. She opened it with shaking claws. Urkala, the voice said, tell your council to make room for one more ambassador, because I'm coming back. Love isn't found in peace. It's what survives the war.